Commission. That's all right with you?
No.
When you promised that young man in there that you would never use this footage, you would blur his face out, and then you used it.
I don't think that's the discussion we had with him.
No. All right. Let's make this real simple. Would you agree to release the hidden microphone conversations unedited?
I don't know.
Because in there it says that.
I'm going to say that my recollection of the discussion with him, and I don't know, I haven't reviewed this, my recollection of the discussion with him.
Would you release unedited versions of those tapes?
I'll tell you what my recollection was and what we thought the agreement was and how we approached it was that he wasn't a major player in the film and we weren't going to use him in any way more than he needed to be used for the story, which is all we've done.
The beginning of the meeting and the Hilton, you both agreed to blur him out and not use him.
I don't think that's what we agreed to.
It's on the tape.
And if that's what we said, then
it's on the tape.
Okay, well, I don't know.
David did it in the airport, and you both did it in the Hilton.
My recollection is that we said we weren't going to use him in the film.
It's on tape.
I'm sure.
We don't need to hear your recollection. How many lies do you expect to get away with?
I'm telling you what I recall. What I recall and what our intention was.
It's on the tape.
Great. Really good to hear that. I'm telling you how we approached it at the end of the film. That is, we didn't want to include that any more than was necessary to tell the
David
story.
promised him in the airport he would be blurred out, and you both promised him in the Hilton he would be blurred out.
Well, this is an interesting thing. And your company, Jen O'Brien Media, promises guys that their videos will go online with screen names.
No, absolutely not.
Yes, it does. I've seen the contracts.
I have. Listen,
the contracts say that they will be used the screen name, whatever screen name is.
You just used TJ Bretzener's name on the screen. Did you tell him you were going to do that?
Yes.
Did you bother to tell anyone that the lies he told?
What lies did TJ tell?
He said that he was conned into doing it. You used footage of the second time I shot him. Did I con him twice again?
I'm sure maybe he came and had a good time and went back and did it again, but he didn't have a good time for long because that website went up and Jane O'Brien.
I'm not going to discuss Jane O'Brien. Oh,
can I talk to David about Jane O'Brien when he comes in?
David will decide for David what David wants to do. But your behavior, on the other hand, is absolutely unethical.
And your behavior. You had a website where you spent an entire post defaming and harassing Jordan, and then once he says something you like, you take that post away.
No.
You talk about me editing the film, you delete the whole post where you destroyed his credibility. And then because he became credible to you, he said something you liked.
No, listen, it doesn't matter to me.
The post is gone. Did you delete the post?
Of course.
Because you didn't want anyone to see.
Because
before
he
you started
asked
tweeting
me
out
to.
to journalists, you didn't want anyone to see.
No.
How you said he was completely uncredible. Once.
Are you calling Jordan a liar?
You were.
No, are you?
You were.
Both you.
The things he has
both
said to
you and David in your interview with Business Insider said he was not telling the truth.
He said to you that are not true.
Okay, so he's a liar.
He lied to you.
He's a liar.
He lied to you.
Okay, but he told the truth to you.
Are you going to say that that people don't lie?
No, I'm going to say if he has no credibility, take him out of the movie.
Are you going to say
why did you call police on me?
I didn't call the police on you. Sundance has a security policy that they acted on their own. And we didn't call anyone. We didn't tell anyone anything.
Okay.
They have a policy. And they acted.
You think sending bombs to doors of police after someone because they took notes is okay?
We didn't tell the police who was sick. We didn't call the police. We didn't ask for anything. Sundance dealt with that by
And you didn't correct them.
What was I going to say?
You were going to say there is no reason to do that to that person. He threatens no one.
Policy for that.
And that was the policy, I suppose, in Missouri as well.
In Missouri, the two men who were in the film refused
and that
to
has
leave.
what to do with me?
Nothing to do with you.
Then what then? What does that have to do with me?
Well, you brought Missouri up.
Yes, and people harassed me in Missouri as well.
I don't know who harassed you in Missouri.
Let me ask you a question. When you see something like in a program in Missouri that says edgy New York lawyers, why didn't you correct them on that?
We had a very difficult time. Every time anyone asked me about that in Q&A, I had corrected. I had explained exactly what your role is, what Marco's role is.
But you didn't correct that. You let that go.
Do you think I can correct all of the things that get written about the film?
You don't seem to have a problem when it works for you.
I have no problem with what people write about film.
Of course you have no problem. All you do is lie and lie and lie.
I'll tell you what, Kevin, I agree, and I've said this publicly in Q&As. I don't know if people record it, maybe you'll find it. I agree that we should have better clarified your role within the company.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell anyone, for instance, you were paying Jordan, why didn't you tell anybody that Richard Ivey was an investor in your film that's using your film to promote his porn site? Why didn't you tell people that Richard is a pornographer?
None of these things are relevant to the story we've told.
They sure are. Do you have any footage of guys with shirts off that I'm tickling and touching them?
We've never said
You're conflating the two.
No, we're not. Do we have any footage of any of the porn stuff that Richard does? No. We're not.
No, but you're not telling people that he is a pornographer. You're making it seem as though he does what I do.
He makes tickling erotica.
Yes.
He said, look at his website. We showed his website.
Yeah, I know. You're
We're
in
not
business
hiding.
promoting a pornographer.
Right. Good for him. We.
No. Not when you have a whole group of young men who you are telling people they are gay porn fetish models.
Who? No, we're not. We're very.
Excuse me. How would you know what they thought they were getting themselves
Because
into?
it's what Janet Ryan says they're getting.
I
They're
told
getting competitive
every
sport.
person,
That it's not gay. It
including
says it's not gay. It says it's not heterosexual fetish material. Are you saying
I-
that the
and
videos
how
you're
many-
making
and
are
you-
not
you-
erotica?
Oh, let me see. When David Ferrier sits in an interview and says, and the interviewer says to him, so in other words, it's porn with clothes on, he says yes.
Which one was that? I don't know. Is it
Of
porn with
course,
clothes on?
why would you know
Are you saying-
anything that doesn't fit the narrative you started with?
I haven't read every review. Are you saying then
What?
that those videos aren't used in that way by some people?
People use watching High School Musical that way. I can't, but I can tell you one thing, there is never nudity, there is never touching of genitals, which is what you showed and made it seem as though we were
There was
doing.
no touching of genitals. In
Excuse me,
Richard
you
doing.
have Richard Ivey touching someone's nipples erotically.
Oh yeah.
Do you have something?
I love
Do you have something like that of mine? Do you have anybody with his shirt off? Do you have me tickling anybody?
No, do we say it? We do.
You absolutely imply through the whole thing that he's a good guy and I'm a bad guy.
Oh, that's an interesting interpretation. I don't think that's the one that most people have. That what you are making is pornography. We're clear that what you are making is some form of tickling erotica.
Really?
Are you suggesting it's not fetish material and it's not erotica? Can you
I
honestly say that's
absolutely.
what- So what is it? Is it a sport?
Among other things, yes, but I can tell you one thing.
How is it a
It's
sport?
not what you say it is.
No, honestly, how is it a sport?
Because people at the end of the shoot, for what it's worth, whoever tickles the best, whoever does the best work, gets
I've
rewarded
watched
for that.
I've watched quite a few of the videos, more than I would have chosen to otherwise.
Oh,
And
God bless you, you're such a saint.
Thank you. Look. There's an interesting thing that I find about the videos, right? There's no reason that the videos shouldn't be made. You can make the videos. I'm totally down with the videos. They're fine. If you were completely upfront with what the guys are getting into, and quite clearly it is heterosexual, homosexual fiction.
No, that's not quite
Okay,
clear.
it's
Why
not
didn't you
homosexual.
show any of the footage that I've shot of girls tickling guys?
That wasn't what we found initially.
Why didn't you show any of that? You were
Is
so
Janet Ryan
full of What?
It's Janet Ryan, like the vast majority of the Janet Ryan content we can find.
I have done both.
Okay, well that's interesting. Was that before the competitive endurance sport?
It's always been. It's been that since day one for me.
Oh, that's interesting. Look, I'm saying that is clearly erotic material. And you...
I don't agree with
say
you.
on the Janet Ryan...
I don't agree with you.
don't anymore, but that's capability. You used to say on the Janet Ryan media website that it was not fictional.
I'll tell you what. You go into a court and tell them these guys fully clothed is erotic material, and see how far you get with that.
I think people would probably see it to be the same.
Obviously that's what you're trying to conflate it into being, but that's not what it is.
Well, I think most people looking at that, you know, they say...
Sure, when you present it like that, with the love with David Ferrier doing this, why, by the way, let me ask you a question. Why, when you recorded my phone conversation illegally in California, did you put it up on
So did
YouTube?
you not know we were standing outside the studio with a camera? Could you not see us from the window with Marcos
Why?
standing up there?
No. California has a two-person law that's very clear. You have to have the permission of both parties.
No. Both parties have to be aware.
And I was nowhere near the window.
We had...
But you can't just assume that I know. Why are you telling me that every journalist in the world has a right to record every conversation without telling anyone anything off the record? We asked you at the beginning of that meeting. You took your phones and said there's no other recording devices. And no other. You need to release the video, the tape. And then you asked you if there are any recording devices.
No.
You said no.
I was never asked that.
Lie number 2
Okay.
on that particular subject. But you never know how to stop lying.
No, it's not. I mean, so you keep saying, I don't think you're entirely accurate.
I understand. Then let's talk to your cameras. Release unedited versions of the conversations in the Hilton.
I'm not beholden to you.
No, I'm saying that. But you're saying it didn't happen. I'm telling you
I
there's
am
proof.
saying it didn't happen.
I'm telling you there's proof. Let people see it.
No, it's not.
Of course not.
Okay.
Of course not. There's proof, but I won't let people see it. You're so great.
The film is what the film is.
The film is a piece of garbage full of lies.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've read your review.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When you talked to that person's stepmother, was she aware she was going to be in a
She was
documentary?
aware she was talking to a journalist.
No, he said I'm doing a story. That's what he said.
He said he was a journalist when he was young and he was doing a story.
Yes. Did Did you let her know she was going to be in a documentary?
Not at that stage.
No.
She found
Ever?
out later and we told her.
When did she find out?
I don't know.
And you have a release from her?
No.
What more do I need to do here? What more do I need to do? Why
So
don't you
you're
have
saying what you
why
said?
don't you have a release from her?
We don't need one.
Oh, that's the moral thing to do. That's the ethical
We've
thing
got
to
the
do.
information that's in the film. You see what's in the film.
I see when you called D'Amato and Lynch, that woman that answered the phone, what was her name?
I have no idea.
But you have no idea who she was, yet you used that as proof that D'Amato and Lynch will talk to you. Why didn't you go to D'Amato and Lynch and say, who's responsible for talking about this? And go together
Don't
official
finish.
answer.
Sure, I'm happy to do a Q&A. 8 minutes, great.
Why didn't you do that?
Why
didn't you go to D'Amato and Lynch? No, you called a person on the phone that you didn't even know and put her at risk, and you tell her she was in the documentary?
No, I mean,
Of course not. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
We're allowed to record this. We
No,
did not
what you're allowed to do, you're allowed to do all kinds of things, I suppose. But let's be reasonable here. Why don't you have releases for these people? Why don't you tell people what you're doing? Why, for example, did you record the 2 conversations with me without my permission?
Because it was important to our family.
Yeah. So all journalists should understand that you can record anything you want.
So if we're making
You are making a film about me.
No, we're making a film about your organisation that you came to New Zealand as
Yes.
a representative of.
Yes. And why didn't you tell people what the conversations that
How
we
do you
had?
make a film about someone else with a film?
Why
No.
didn't you-
So let me just finish this one point.
Not likely. Why should I let you finish anything? You've lied from start. How many lies have you told here? I'll make this
Okay.
very cut and clear.
Yeah.
If you want to prove that you're telling the truth, release unedited versions of those conversations.
Sorry, you don't get to make that call.
I don't. Of course, I don't get to make that
So-
call. Because why would you release what would prove you're lying?
Let me go
It's
again.
real simple. Release it.
Let me go again. If I were making
Release
a film,
it.
I were making a film about people who didn't want a film made about them, and all they had to do to not have a film made about them was say, don't make a film about me, what would be
No.
the point?
The point would be if you promise something is off the record, it should be off the record.
What was anything was off the record?
Release the audio recordings.
No.
Of course not. Why would you do? Why wouldn't you?
Why would I do anything you
Why?
demanded?
Because it'll prove that you're lying.
Fundamentally, take the whole film itself.
It will prove that you're lying.
Well, I'm not releasing anything.
Of course not.
Because you say
Not to me, to a neutral party. Of course not. Why would you release anything that proves
Why
you're
are you
lying?
releasing them? Why haven't you released all the emails from people after they had harassment sites set up?
I don't have it didn't come to me.
Right.
Had nothing to do with
me.
me. It had nothing to do with me.
You are a representative.
Release the audio recordings that show you're lying. That's not complicated. That's real simple. That's real simple.
So we still want to address the main point. You want to
No, you can address whatever you
You
want.
want to address it with the Business Insider journalist
No.
I spoke to. You want to address it with us in Auckland.
No,
you want to address it with me now.
and I'm not going to.
The reason we
No,
made the film
I'm not going to
was
address
because of
your
harassment and
unethical
abuse that these guys
behavior.
were
I'll
receiving.
address your unethical behavior and the damage you did to people in my life. That's what I will do.
I didn't do the damage to people in your life. The person who employed you
No,
to make
you
this
did
film
the damage.
that they ended up using to harass
You
young men
did the
did
damage.
the damage to you.
You did, and all these people who.
They created the situation.
No,
What
no,
did
no,
they do?
no.
You
You're
created the
responsible
situation
for
that
what
you
you
find
did.
yourself in.
You're responsible for what you did. And I'm going to make this real simple, and this is the end of this
So
discussion.
you're not responsible.
Release the audio tapes that show you're lying. And if you don't release it, it's the same as admitting you were lying. There's
I don't
no
think that's
reason
how it
not to.
works.
What?
I don't think that's how it works.
Well, you can think whatever you want. You
Okay.
haven't thought how anything works from the start. You've tried to pin things on people that don't exist. You've gone around the country saying everybody's a bunch of crooks and they're all going to
No,
jail.
we haven't said that to anyone.
I have it in writing.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
From who?
And how many people have you paid?
We paid some of the people who spoke to us to compensate them for the time they
Oh, that's
spent
right.
with
Do
us.
you think people are making $400 a day in Muskegon? Do you think that's not waving money in front of somebody who doesn't have any? When was the last time you think Jordan made $400 a day?
I have no
Yes, you
idea.
do.
It's not entirely. It doesn't matter. Like
Of course it does.
Are you saying that everything you told
I'm
us
saying
is
you have an
true?
obligation to tell people that you're paying people for information.
You
You
say-
have an
you say
obligation
that-
to
you
do
say
that.
that guys
You have an
who-
obligation to tell
You say that
people.
guys he knew in Muskegon
You have an
didn't
obligation
have
to tell
a terrible
people-
experience and weren't
Most,
recipients of
I will
abuse.
tell you that 99%, like I told you there, 99% of the
that.
people haven't.
And I've said that many times in Q&As and in interviews. Many people went, got simple, had a great experience, went home. Fantastic. If that was
99%.
everyone,
No, you say
problem.
everyone's afraid to talk because of the
No, the
retribution.
people we spoke to who had
No,
external
you
experiences,
say
they
no one
know.
will talk to us because they're afraid of the
Because the
retribution.
ones we can identify were the ones whose real names have been released all over the internet.
You have some of them sitting in there.
Right.
You had Adam tell you that he would that was not true.
Which is?
The person who you promised you would blur his face out.
I don't know if he was on the receiving end of all those websites. He probably didn't have that
Excuse me.
experience, Jennifer, right?
You can mix your apples and oranges all you want. But the fact of the matter is you lied, you distorted, and you... I'm going to make this last comment. Release the audio tapes that
That's
show
your
you
last
lying.
comment last time.
It's my comment now, and it will be my comment until you do it.
I see.
Because you are a liar, and there is proof.
Yeah.
But you won't show the proof because it will show you lying.
You still won't address the point.
I don't have to address the point. I don't have to deal with an unethical journalist.
The point of
No
the
one
film
does.
and that you're trying
No,
to spread it.
I don't. I told you in New
About the
Zealand I had
invasive
nothing to
harassment
do
threat.
with that. It had nothing to do with
But
what
you're
happened
paying
before.
looking for
Why
somebody
didn't you
who
tell
does that.
people David Starr was a convicted felon? Why
Is
did
it relevant to what he
Of
told
course
us?
it is. He was convicted for going on airplanes and acting as a different person lying. He's a liar, and yet he's a convicted felon as a liar, and you don't bother to mention it.
We good for Q&A? Right. Yeah. Let's see if we can get the house lights up. It'll be programmed. We'll just put it early. House lights up right now. Just keep an eye on it.
Are you guys gonna watch? Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks so much for coming out to the new art. Let's give a round of applause for Tickled here. In unprecedented fashion, some of the people from the film are here.
No. I'd like to invite you to talk to us. Sit down with us at some point. Can't do it in California. You can't talk to me in California. Why not? It's illegal for you to talk to me in California.
Just try filming.
Shut up. Oh, we are filming.
Good.
Are you
By all
unaware-
means, keep filming.
No, are you
By all
unaware?
means, keep filming.
Are you unaware that you're being filmed?
No, but are you aware of the Film LA registration?
We can film in here. This is a private space.
In fact, you can't.
We have permission from the owners.
That does not have anything to do with the California ordinance for the County of Los Angeles.
It's not a criminal statute.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. It's a civil statute. We can be fined, perhaps. I mean, if that's what it takes.
Tell you what, you're going to tell a New York attorney what a felony is
Which
in
one will
some
it be?
country.
Will it be
This
different
one
ground?
right here, buddy.
You're
Yeah.
not a member of the bar.
I certainly am able to practice law.
You are not a member of the bar. You're not admitted to the New York State Bar.
How about other states?
I don't know. I couldn't find you in any that I looked in.
Can't seem to find a damn thing. You're not doing
Well,
a
you
very
said
good
it was
job.
in New York?
Where's your buddy David? He at least is
He's in New York. You know
able
that.
to,
It's on the website.
competent, non-confrontational interview. But no, really, what I wanted to do is wish you all the success possible,
Okay.
because it's going to be a good ride.
Well, it's going quite well. I appreciate that. You. Ladies and gentlemen, David Tomato.
Trust me, I am. Let him speak. Let him speak.
What's David have to say?
David,
Yeah,
Oh,
David had to
go.
say.
No,
I'm no coward. Go ahead.
David, no, come up in the front. There's microphones. I will honestly, I will
No,
invite
I
you to
want,
speak honestly.
I want you to do
You
your
can-
Q&A.
You can say whatever
I
you like.
want you to do your Q&A, and I will happily join the audience where I've been and see what you have to say.
Yeah.
You guys are a little unorthodox.
Don't worry about me.
This is Dylan Reeve.
Oh, I made a film you've just watched. I guess I'd like to talk to you about it. So, I mean, we can start off simply. I like raise a hand if you want to ask a question. Anyone? Hello, back there. Shout out.
Hi.
Hi.
Great job.
Thank you. That's not a question.
So it's sort of unclear how you guys obtained that smoking gun of
The documents.
Yes.
Oh, I can explain that. So, when we discovered JanO'BrienMedia.com, we did essentially a reverse DNS search. What it does is it looks for other domain names that are registered to the same entity. In that, we got a list of around about 300 domain names, give or take, and started just working our way down the list because, you know, why wouldn't you? We got partway down the list, and a website opened up, and there was a list of files, a directory listing, and one of the directories was My Documents. So you click on My Documents, and there's a list of files. And so we clicked on the files, and they said denied. So we could see the list of all of the files, but we couldn't open any of the files. At some point, some months later, we clicked on the files again, and one of them opened. And at that point, we downloaded all the files. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the change was, but it appeared to me that the web server had been moved from one physical machine to another. It had changed, if you care about these things, from light HTTPD to Apache, and therefore the configuration on the server had changed. So the default configuration, instead of being don't serve up the files, was serve up the files. That's what happened. Anyone else? Sorry, you're standing. Sorry, I'm blind.
I really love your choice at the end to the poignant choice ending with the profound effect that bullying may have had on the subject of the documentary.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you care to comment on that at all.
I mean, I can't speculate on anyone's motivations or or how they come to do what they want to do. What I can say is it was important for us when we had that conversation to include it in the film because it added a sense of depth. Until that point, our subject was a largely one-dimensional character, and I mean it was better once we knew more, once there was depth, I think. Hello, back there.
What was the hardest part about making the documentary?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of difficult things. Like just making a documentary is difficult. Going from one place to another, traveling with a small crew, filming things, trying to speak to people. I mean, a lot of what was difficult we saw in the film, and there are other things fundamentally that are difficult. Essentially, making a film about a person who doesn't want a film made about them is complicated. As I'm sure you're aware, and is evident from the film and from some events. So I mean, those were complications we encountered, essentially. Hi, yes.
Are the tickling shoots still going on?
I don't believe they are at the moment.
Repeat the question.
Sorry, are the tickling shoots still going on? I don't believe that they are, but I'm not entirely sure. There are people in the audience who could comment if they would like to offer some insight. Kevin, are they still happening? Okay, so we don't know. Hello.
So I'm a lawyer, so I'm just really curious, like, what you were being sued for and what the status of litigation is.
So only 2 actual lawsuits have been filed against us that I'm aware of. There may be more in process, apparently. 2 lawsuits were filed. One was in Utah and one was in Missouri, and they were in relation to the screenings we had at Sundance and at the True False Film Festival. They made a number of allegations about defamation, and that's really all I can say about it. They are currently, those 2 lawsuits are not currently before the courts. They were dismissed for improper venue. Hello.
What does the act of tickling mean to you now?
What does the act of tickling mean to me now? I mean, I would be lying if I said making the film hasn't changed my perceptions of tickling. Until we started on the journey, I didn't realise that tickling was a fetish that anyone had. And obviously people have all sorts of fetishes, and to think about it, it's obvious. It's fine. but I mean, it's changed my perception. I tickle my kids less than I used to. Like, you know, I mean, that's honest. It's a bit weird. It's changed. Hi, yeah.
So at what point did you know that you were not going to let this go?
At what point did we know we weren't going to let it go? I guess there's the main point, the point at which we probably were most certain was once 3 people flew to New Zealand to tell us there was no story and that we shouldn't pursue it, because there's a disconnect between, you know, actions and words, and I think that was the sort of thing that just struck us as interesting and sort of, yeah, we had to pursue it from that point. Hi, you had your hand up before.
In the film, it sounded like you just stumbled across tickling. Were you told to like look for something interesting that might make a fun documentary?
So no, it was we stumbled upon it in the film. Is what the question was about, and how did that come to be? So David Farrier, who you see most of the way through the film, is a light entertainment journalist for TV3 in New Zealand, and his beat essentially is pop culture. And like light entertainment, quirky internet stuff. So a friend of his sent him the video to Jane O'Brien Media, and it seemed weird. There was, you know, just interesting, quirky internet thing, right? Some guys were being flown to LA and paid a lot of money to be tickled, and that was kind of weird. And so David reached out to them in a genuine effort at that point to make what was going to be like a 2-minute story at the end of the news, like, oh, look at this tickling thing that people get paid to do. It's a competitive sport. And when the response that he received was the unusual and very public, because it was a Facebook comment on their public post. When that was what he received, it was, again, very disparate between words and actions. Like, so there's videos that are being made that seem to be, have an undeniable homoerotic quality to them. But the words that came back were very seemingly homophobic. So those two things, you know, made it interesting and weird. And then there was a follow-on of a lot of emails and other things that just made it more interesting. And eventually it became too complicated for us to write about, and we made it into a documentary, obviously. Hi, back there.
When I was watching the film, I kept thinking about if the boys had been tickled by women, that there would not be there wouldn't be the leverage for it to be so disruptive. And so I was curious how, like, there's no really direct reference in the film to the power of that, aside from the joke that David makes sort of in the beginning of the film, that it seems sort of gay.
Sorry. Yes, that is a part of it, for sure. I mean, I can't, Kevin's waving his hand. There were women have done tickling in the past. It certainly at times involved women tickling guys. The bulk of the videos that we found when we found them were guys being tickled by other guys, and those were the videos that we generally found on the websites that we discovered. And I should clarify, because we don't clarify it perhaps in the film, although it's obvious by the scale, that for a large number of the guys in the film, for a large number of guys who do the tickling, they fly to LA, get paid, get tickled, go home, and probably think nothing of it. For some number of them, there's a different outcome, which was the outcome that interested us. It was the one that we felt was a problem. And it wasn't always obvious to us why that happened. And it often wasn't obvious to the guys we spoke to why it happened. So that was the main thing that caught our interest. Sorry, I'll go back a little bit. No, just to your, just come forward and then that guy there.
How do you speculate, or do you know how Mr. D'Amato was technically able to set up all these sites and, you know, like?
I'm not going to speculate on what Mr. D'Amato did or didn't do.
Do you know though?
I mean, it's not hard to set up websites. You can buy.
But you can buy as many and that.
It's easy. You register a domain name, it takes 5 minutes. It's just a matter of persistence and you know, interest, I suppose. Let's go over here. Hi.
Yes, of course, the most appalling aspect of this story, and I do thank you for being so dogged and making sure that this film was made.
Thank you.
The most appalling thing was the people whose lives were really destroyed or near destroyed, or who were, you know, whose lives were radically damaged.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you're in touch with any of them, or if you know that if anything's improved with any of those guys.
So what we generally found with the people who found themselves on the receiving end of the harassment in various ways was that it died off after a while. So if you don't keep, if you don't keep promoting web pages, and if you don't keep domain names registered, things fall off the internet. So TJ, for example, who we spoke to, when we first spoke to him, like the first 4 pages of Google results for his name were mostly tickling related. If you search for his name now, that's less so. I'm not sure that tickling shows up on his. Kevin. No, by all means, would you like my card? Here you go.
Back here.
Hi, Kevin.
The first thing I'd like to ask the audience a couple of questions.
By all means.
Does it bother anyone that he is using footage that I shot of these young men that he has not gotten permission to use, that he does not care the damage it's going to do to their lives?
Okay, so can
No, seriously, why don't those people have rights?
Can I offer a response, and then we can honestly ask the audience? So my response to that is, and we thought through this a lot, and we debated back and forth about whether we were going to blur those guys' faces in the videos. And the reason we didn't is that the videos at the time we were making the film, and some of them, many of them still today, are very widely accessible on the internet. They're very easily found. They are publicly posted on YouTube. We did not identify any of those guys by name. We did not linger on them, and we believe that in general, the film provides a broad context to what they experienced.
So in other words, let me ask the question. So in other words, if that person uses footage that harms people, that's bad. If you do it, that's okay. Because no, hold on a second. Let me finish the point.
Yeah.
When you used Richard Ivey as an example of what was going on, you didn't bother to tell anyone he was a pornographer that engaged in sex acts with those models. You showed footage of him fondling someone's nipples and acted as though that's what I shoot. Let me finish talking, please. There is no nudity, there is no touching of genitals, none of that exists, yet you conflate the two as if they're the same.
I don't think we do. I understand that that's the position you take. I don't think, and we can ask the audience, do you think we conflate the videos of these guys with pornography? So I mean, I honestly think, and I really believe this, given that you're interpreting some aspects.
No, I'm interpreting the answers David Ferrier has given to interviewers. His exact words were, yes, it's pornography with clothes on.
Yeah, I think undeniably wrong.
Do you think that I shoot pornography with clothes on?
Yes.
There's no sexual touching, there's nothing but, and that's pornography.
Okay, no, okay, so there's a famous saying, which is what? Like, pornography, I know it when I see it. Right?
Yes, there is.
Well, then I think when I see it, it seems like pornography to me. It's not nude, there's no money shots, but it seems undeniable to me.
At any point, there is no touching of anything that even resembles a private part.
No,
there is tickling of different parts of the body. Now, I understand that you may not grasp that.
You understand, though, you're saying Richard Ivey runs a porn site, which he does.
Which is not made clear. It is also not made clear that he became an executive producer by giving you $1,000.
By giving us $1,000 during our Kickstarter.
And you didn't make that clear.
Aside from the credit.
And he's not using this movie to promote his porn site.
He may well be.
Imagine that.
But you're saying he runs a porn site. A large number of the videos on his site.
Yes, and you never told anyone he ran a porn site. Just like you never told anyone you were paying for information.
A large number of the videos on his website feature no genital touches, and they are still porn.
The bully here are Ferrier and Reeve. That's who the bullies are.
Look, Kevin, I've read through your website. website. If you'd like to read everything Kevin has to say about the film, and he has a lot to say about the film, you can visit tickledmovie.info. Our website is tickledmovie.info.
Can I ask one more question and I'll leave
Yes,
this
it's
to you?
tickledmovie.info. I think you genuinely misinterpreted large aspects of the film.
All right, may I say one more thing?
Yes.
It should be, for anyone who doesn't know, the person who said there were death threats and all of those things, spoke and said that he was coached and paid by them. None of it was true. It was all a lie.
He did say that to you.
Hold on. Now, whether or not that's true or not, they have clearly said publicly that he's a liar. Why is he
No,
so
he said he lied to you.
Oh, but he didn't lie to you.
I don't believe for the most part that he did.
Okay.
I don't know.
You can't have that one both ways. He
Yes,
tells the
yes,
truth
you can.
or he's a liar.
You can't say that saying a lie one time to one person means that no one is capable of telling the
I
truth about
asked
anything ever.
anyone to look at the video of what he said.
Is
You
Jordan still
can't have
here? Like, he was here a minute ago and he walked out, we shook hands on the way past. He said it was a good film.
Hold on to that thought. But you can't have it both ways. You can't tell the truth and be a liar.
I can have it both ways. He can
Well,
lie to
you can try to, certainly.
He can lie to you and tell us the truth. He could be
How
lying to both of us.
how do you know he didn't tell me the truth and lie to you?
I don't. He
There
could
you
be
go.
lying to both of us.
We're
I
done.
have a signed release form where he says he won't tell us lies.
How many do you want?
So, I mean, if he was lying to us, then that's his problem with us. But we found the things he said to us to be credible, based on many other experiences we found that mirrored his own. Hello, there's a question here in the middle.
No, give it back to him. Give it back to Kevin.
Okay, one more.
On the idea that
Yes.
death threats were made,
Yes.
if when you stood there in Muskegon and he told you death threats were made, why did you not immediately go to the police and report them if you thought people were in danger?
Did Jordan tell you when he had that conversation with us?
Why did you, when you were in Muskegon with Jordan, why did you not go and report death threats to the police?
Did Jordan tell you when he had that conversation with us? Did he tell you?
Listen, they sent police dogs and bomb
Would you
sniffing dogs
like-
and police after me because of those threats.
No.
Those
no.
are credible.
That is not what
Really?
happened. What happened is, at Sundance, you turned up in a screening.
Yes.
You alarmed people around you.
No.
I'm not saying
How about
that you
trying
did
the
anything to
truth
alarm
here?
them.
How about trying the truth? I know it's difficult for you, but what I did was I told the people sitting around me that I was going to take notes because I was in it, and that's it.
People around you were alarmed. They informed ushers.
Before
Ushers called Sundance
Really?
Security.
Why are you so
Sundance Security.
Why do you think you could just lie for the heck of it?
I am
Why
telling.
don't-
Okay.
No, why don't you tell the truth?
I'm telling the truth. If you'd like to be quiet for a second, I will finish.
Someone before the film started that was sitting next to me went and told them. They didn't become alarmed because of anything I did.
People were alarmed by your presence. Whether that was fair on their part or not, I don't know. I don't think you're a violent
It was a
person.
publicity stunt on your part.
They told the ushers.
And when you posted the picture of the police dogs and the police the
Yeah.
next day through Sundance when I was long gone, that wasn't a publicity stunt?
Were you long gone? Well, I thought you were still in town. So,
Well, you who knows all, I wasn't in town for more than 5 minutes.
I'm
I
sorry.
left before the credits came up and left town.
did you stay? Oh, I thought you might have stayed in Park City. It's a lovely city. So, what happened? And please let me run my timeline through on how this went down. Okay? People in the audience were aware you were there. They became concerned, if we want to call it
Can't
that.
do that. You cannot lie. There was a person before the film
How?
started that went and told me before I'd said anything. So please tell the
Okay,
truth.
I don't know how they recognized you because, or maybe they were in a
I
second
told
screen.
the people sitting next to me I was in it and I was going to take notes
Okay.
so that they wouldn't be alarmed. And apparently, taking notes is a terrible thing.
Can you hand the microphone back to someone for a second so I can finish my statement on this? Alright, what happened, Kevin? Someone in the audience told an usher you were in there. The usher told Sundance Security, or the Sundance organizers. The Sundance organizers had an existing plan for what they do when there are any concerns in screening, and that was arranged with the Park City Police. I had nothing to do with it. David had nothing to do with it. The film had nothing to do with it.
Corrected them.
No, we didn't. They didn't ask us anything. They just sent officers to the cinema.
Dogs come after me. No,
They responded however they decided to respond. We had no part of it.
And you did not correct it. Just like
What correction do you want?
I want you to say there were no death threats made and no one was ever in danger.
I have no idea if death threats were actually made. I can tell you, and you see in the film, that Jordan told us there were.
Yes, and I said to you, why did you not, like any journalist would, why did you not source that and
Did
find
you
out
ask
if it was true or
Jordan
not?
when he made that
Why
comment?
did you not find out
Jordan
if it was true?
said
It's all you needed
that
was somebody to
conversation
say
about
what you
death
wanted to
threats
hear.
happened with Jordan probably nearly 2 weeks before we actually met up with him. On a phone call, long before we met him, long before we'd given him any money. We didn't know what his agenda was. We didn't know whether it was real. We didn't know whether people were actually making phone calls. We didn't know whether there were any credible threats. He told us that. He said he thought he told us that this was what happened to him. That's what we put in the film. We don't ever say again after that we think death threats are a common thing that happens. That was what Jordan said he experienced, and we put it in the film.
Thought that you shouldn't find out if that's true. If you believe
How do you find out if that's true?
It's real simple. You go to the police and they track down the calls. It's not
If
complicated.
Jordan felt threatened, Jordan could go to the police.
Other people should have felt threatened. They certainly felt threatened enough to send dogs and police after me.
Kevin and I have already had a 15-minute discussion in the foyer while the film was finishing.
Yes, and the discussion was real simple. All you choose to do is lie. And I'm going to make this thing publicly. When we went to New Zealand and he secretly recorded conversations he promised he wouldn't, it was very clear it was off the record. It was very clear it was not supposed to be recorded. This is not complicated. Release the audio tapes from the Hilton. Do that, unedited, and people will find out every lie you're telling. If you choose not to release them, it is because you are lying.
So you say.
Release them!
That's your assertion. I don't need to take instructions from you. I appreciate it.
Of course not. You're lying.
Okay, well, if that's what you want to continue to assert, you're welcome to.
Yeah,
I would like to take any other question.
You can prove me wrong.
I'm sure I can.
No, you sure you can't, or you'd release them.
Hello, anyway, down here there was... Yep. This is a longer Q&A than usual.
Thank you. I'm a little bit still caught up on who was the audience for these videos, and who was consuming them, who was paying for them, if anybody. And so one thing that caught my eye in the movie was the Facebook following. There were like 20-something.
Yeah, I think it's nearly 30,000 now.
Did you reach out to any of those people who were
We did not.
commenting?
I mean, the tickling, there's a lot of people who enjoy tickling as a fetish, and that is fine.
Yeah.
There are communities online, there are multiple forums and other places where people talk about these things. And that's cool, and some of them like the videos. Some of them, there are people who are really big fans of the Jane O'Brien videos. And that's fine. We have no problem with the videos. We have a problem with what happens after to some of the guys. The videos are fine. So, I mean, we didn't feel any need to reach out to those people. We don't feel any need to... And the large part of the reason that Richard Ivey is in the film is because it was really important to us when we were making the film that it not be taken as some indictment of tickle fetishists or the tickling community overall. Richard was our foil. He was someone who was out and proud and happy doing what he was doing and very open about what he was doing. And that's why we included him. It was really important to us. Hello, over here.
As far as it goes, Richard Ivey's films are very, very vanilla, as opposed to some of them.
Are they?
As far as it goes,
Yeah.
Richard Ivey's films are very vanilla, and anyone in this audience probably knows what that means.
Yeah.
The pornographic behavior, I think, comes from Jane O'Brien et al., all those other people, doing that to people. That's beyond pornographic. That's ruining people's lives and things like that. They're trying to buy what they want. Richard Ivey has people coming to him. They get paid a little bit. They have a good time. You don't see him after that.
Well, actually, a lot of them go back.
Well, they do.
And that, no, and to, like, again, to be fair, that happens to a lot of guys with Jane O'Brien videos. We assume that because there were, like, I think probably 10 or 15 guys most months in the videos, and there weren't that many websites. So obviously, most people didn't have that experience. But it was the number of people that did have that experience that really bothered us. And that was, for the most part, why we made the film. Look, we kind of have to wrap it up soon because there is another session going to come in. But look, yeah, this was surreal for me. So, David, I mean, honestly, I'm really willing to hear you speak if you want to say anything at all. I will give you like 5 minutes to talk, to say whatever you like.
Well, I just...
Would you like a microphone? Like, honestly, do you want to come up here? Do you want to bring your microphone? I'm happy to listen to
You
you.
needn't do either. I have a good speaking voice.
Okay.
I want to repeat to the audience what I said to you.
Okay.
Welcome to Los Angeles. I hope that this film has a long and successful run in this country, because I think that life is a learning experience and that you're going to learn a great deal about things as a result of this. And I am not necessarily talking about what a battle in the United States Civil Court is like. I would like to correct one thing that you said.
Absolutely.
The legal action that is pending was not dismissed. It has been currently moved. Our law is a little bit more complicated than your
It's very complicated.
indictable offenses and your King's Bench.
That's
God
another
save,
thing.
God save the Queen.
The Queen's Bench for indictable
I just
offences.
said God save the Queen.
Yes.
It is, in this country, it is possible to move suits, federal suits, to another jurisdiction, let's say from Utah to New York, but still have the judge in New York try the case under Utah law.
Okay.
Because of something called the long-arm statute.
I understand.
The actions have been withdrawn, not dismissed, from Utah District Court and Missouri State Court, and now exist in the Southern District Court, Southern District Circuit, Federal Circuit for the state of New York.
Okay, if that's the case, that is not the information I received, and I appreciate the clarification.
No, I can assure you that that's...
Okay, well, can you have your lawyers please reach out to our lawyer, you know who he is, and actually give him that paperwork, because the last I heard, there were no cases before any courts at this moment.
I have one last thing to say.
Okay.
And this is genuinely for your benefit.
Okay.
Cameron is a stand-up guy who, as a lawyer, has served you well.
He's very good.
As an attorney, any lawyer will tell you that the first code in our canon of ethics is that you cannot represent a client unless you have expertise in a certain area of the field in which you've been retained. My lawyers have told Cam, and I hope he's told you, that as we say in New York, Los Angeles TV, you need to lawyer up. You need to get criminal counsel now. Let me finish.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into reading an indictment or a list of information because that's not my place. But what's going to serve you now in the United States and certainly in New Zealand, you've got something, a nasty little thing there called the Privacy Commission.
I know him well.
Which doesn't have anything to do with me, by the way. But please, if you're being funded, if you're being helped, whatever, obtain criminal counsel sooner than later, because there are going to be questions asked along those lines. And even misdemeanors, things that you would call summary offenses, they do mount up and they do become troublesome.
Okay, I appreciate the advice. I assure you, sorry, yes.
Lastly,
yep.
I do have to credit you on the fact that while your facts are very distorted, some of the effects in the movie, the music, the choreography, was done very well.
Do you like no, fair point, quick shout out. Dominic Fryer, who is our VP, did some amazing shooting for us. And the music was really great.
Was he the third person along with you when you shooting in California?
That was on California?
I mean, when you went to the site where this was
The
going
studio?
on. Yes.
No, that was an earlier part of the shoot. At that point, we were being filmed. We were filming with Yves Samad, who's a New Zealand cameraman, who's a friend of mine.
Okay, thank
Would
you.
you'd like to name him?
It's not up to me to name him, it's up to a district.
Okay,
attorney.
cool. Well, it was Eve Samad. I can
But
provide you
I
information.
can't do anything.
Okay.
But thank you very much for giving me a moment.
That's entirely fine, and I appreciate what you say. I assure you that we will do whatever is legally prudent when it's necessary, and I appreciate your concern. Thank you for coming out. So, okay, one quick question. You right there.
I just think you and David are very brave.
Thank you. I would say, and I have said in the past, that it's difficult for us to know, and I'm sure David will agree, not David Ferry, David Tomato here, will agree that it was difficult to know at times whether we were being brave or stupid. And perhaps time will tell.
Read.
Thank you very much. I will be broadly around the area for discussion with polite people.